I can't remember when they put us in this room. I also can't remember when the rain started. I've lost track of time in here. Day in and day out. It's the same routine. The people who put us in here observe us from a glass window 20 feet up. The room is a sterile white with metal tables throughout. They feed us breakfast, lunch, and dinner, mainly the same meals every time. Eggs with microwaved French toast for breakfast, ham sandwiches for lunch, and some sort of meatloaf-like meal for dinner. The routine is the same every day as well. We eat the meals, and then we try to survive. A half hour after dinner, an alarm sounds. That's when we all know it's about to begin. Some people begin scrambling for cover before the meatloaf is even served, sitting under the metal tables, rocking back and forth in fetal positions, hands around their knees, crying hysterically. No matter what anyone is doing, when that alarm sounds, everyone scrambles, because that's when it starts. That's when the people who put us in here turn on the sprinklers from above and let the horrible, putrid acid rain fall. One touch of this neon pink rain on human skin, and you're melted into a sad puddle of liquid flesh. I've seen it with my own eyes, too many times now. I am not sure if it was for the name of science or in the name of genocide. But whatever it is, it's seemingly unending. Today, though, is the day I've officially given up. I'm not going to push and shove to cower under a table and watch those disintegrate who sadly couldn't fit. I'm not going to let those sick fucks in that window watch me scramble for my life. I'm going to let the rain melt me away so I no longer have to live in this room. I've seen some of my compatriots go out this way too. It didn't look painful. It looked almost instantaneous. Most of them who decide this fate approach it the same way. They stand in the middle of the floor, raise their arms above their sides, palms aiming at the ceiling, and gracefully look up towards the sprinklers with their eyes closed. They looked dignified, up until that moment they're turned into a puddle of goo. Dinner has already been served, and the alarm is about to sound any minute now. Even though no one tried to persuade me otherwise, my mind is already made up. I made my way to the middle of the room, gently closed my eyes, and looked up at the sprinklers like so many have done before me. The alarm sounded, and I felt a burning sensation all over my body as the rain touched my skin before melting away. I thought death was what awaited me, but I was wrong. I opened my eyes, and I was in a small town in the middle of a pine forest. I was with my girlfriend, Melissa. I tried telling her about this night terror I had, with the white room and sprinklers dropping acid rain, but she assured me that I was not dreaming. I could tell from the look in her eyes that she was trying to survive the rain too, and that we had to go before the lethal rain started up out here. I was just in a weird lab and melted by the rain, I said. It burned me, but I didn't die. I somehow ended up here. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, she told me, but I've heard stories from others about that lab. No one knows who they are. I do know that sometimes when people melt, they don't reset next to their loved ones like you. They end up in other parts of the world, or at least that's what we've been telling ourselves, since the other option is far more depressing. What the hell is going on? I exclaimed. And where are we going? We're trying to do the same thing as everyone else now. Find cover, she said. The rain has been increasing with frequency. It used to come down from the sky here once or twice a day. Now it's around once an hour. Entire families have been wiped away. Towns, even cities, are empty because of the rain. People melted away, and the survivors left searching for refuge. We're trying to find somewhere to hide, too. She had the news playing in the background on the car's radio. We listened as we drove through the forest. A reporter's warnings cut in and over the scratchy static. If you have not yet found a shelter, you need to. Quick. This, not a warning. The roads were thick with pine trees, almost thick enough to block out the sun, but I knew it wasn't enough to stop the rain. As we came out of the forest, the trees lessened, and the road widened. In the distance, I saw a home I recognized. It was the home of a childhood friend. It was unmistakable. A 3-story Spanish revival home with yellow stucco and a red ceramic roof. It was Dean Byers' house. "I know that place," I shouted. "That's my old friend Dean's house." "Good," Melissa said, "because we need to get indoors and get indoors quick." "This is so strange, though," I said. "This isn't my hometown. Everything looks different. I am not sure why Dean's home is here." "Well, we don't really have the time to find out," she said. She pulled down the dirt driveway. It looked abandoned, with windswept potholes devouring it and overgrown thorn bushes creeping in on both sides. Dean's family had moved a few years after high school, and I wasn't sure what came of his family's house. I wondered for a moment how he was holding up in this rain. The driveway was long, like a quarter-mile long, and as we drove down it, I recognized the snack stand Dean would sit outside of as an elementary school student, selling whatever produce his family grew on the farm, along with a variety of snacks, like Lay's chips and Oreos, and juices and waters. But just like the driveway, the snack stand was also derelict. It could have made a good place for shelter at one point, but now with the rust-eaten holes throughout its tin roof, it would be too risky. The rain was still coming down, so Melissa swung her car as close to the porch as possible, the front right wheel onto the porch's bottom step, and we both jumped out of the passenger side door. "This place is just like it was when I was a kid," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "You can take your trip down memory lane later," Melissa shot back. "Let's go see what's inside and get out of this godforsaken rain." The door was unlocked, and we shimmied into the kitchen. Instantly I knew that this place had already been visited by other people trying to take shelter and looking for supplies. We made a look around the cavernous house and circled back to the kitchen, but every room was the same. "Why?" I shouted while kicking a dining table chair across the room. "Every room is empty, completely desolate." But as the chair crashed on the ground, I remembered that Dean's family home was a century-old farmhouse, and as a century-old farmhouse, it had an old cellar built directly under the very wooden floorboards we were standing on. We pushed the table to the side, and sure enough, there was the rectangular cutout in the floor. "I've never been down here, but let's go see what we can find," I said. The door swung upwards and opened to a steep concrete staircase that looked like it could have been going straight down into the earth's core. "Oh my God," Melissa said, and reached for a light switch. To my surprise, the stairwell lit up and showed a concrete landing with multiple hallways stemming off from it, almost like a concrete maze or Civil War-era prison cells. The doors led to the basement of barns, which apparently had also been hit by people looking for supplies. The old wooden shelves were empty, and there were wrappers and packages scattered about. "There's nothing here for us," I said, as Melissa made her way around the room. "We should keep moving." "Wait," she said. "There's another door back here." The metal door blended in with the cinder-block walls and was sealed tight. We both yanked the levers, and it creaked open and exposed another set of stairs. This time, however, the lights lining the descent were already on. Me and Melissa looked at each other, and although we didn't say it, we both were kind of freaked out. I nodded my head toward the stairs. "It's either down there or back outside running from that death rain," I said. "You're right," she said, grabbing my hand. "Let's go." We ran down the stairs and through the concrete hallway at the bottom. At the end was another metal door with giant handles. We each grabbed one and rolled the door open. The first thing I noticed were the shelves stocked with supplies: toilet paper, canned foods, water, rice, and so much more. The second thing I noticed were the people. There were about a half-dozen of them sitting in lawn chairs in the middle of the concrete room, which would have been otherwise barren if it weren't for the supplies and people in it. "Welcome," one voice said. "We come in peace." The room was dimly lit, but once my eyes adjusted, I started to make out some faces. There were a half-dozen people, but the ones I immediately recognized were Megan Spinelli and George Shippens, as well as Jasmine Tompkins. I went to high school with them. "Bryce, long time no see," George said. "How about this weather we're having?" The other people in the room laughed. "I hope we aren't intruding," I said. "We were just driving looking for shelter and came across this place. It looks just like my old friend Dean Meyer's house." "It is Dean Meyer's house," Megan said. "Except this isn't Springdale where we all grew up. It's some other kind of replica or counterfeit version. We still aren't sure what's going on. But what we do know is that we have enough food in here to keep us for a few months," Jasmine interjected. "Even with you two here." "Oh, I'm sorry," I said. "This is my girlfriend, Melissa." "Hi, everyone," Melissa said. "Well, you are welcome to make yourselves comfortable if you'd like," George said. "What was that place earlier? The concrete, the rain?" I asked. "We probably know just as much as you do, which is close to nothing," George said. "But we also escaped similar fates in that room. I saw many of my friends just melt away to nothing right in front of me." "There are a few rumors," Jasmine began, "but they are totally unfounded." "Well, what are they?" Melissa said. "I'd like to know anyways. This may sound crazy, but some people have been saying that we are at war. Well, actually, that the U.S. is losing a war and that the rain is some type of experiment being used on us by them." "And who is them?" Melissa said. "Russia, Iran, China. I don't know," Jasmine continued. "Like I said, this is all unsubstantiated. The other theory we have heard is that there was an electromagnetic pulse event that not only turned off every electronic device and knocked everyone off the grid, but flipped some kind of switch in the universe," Megan said. "The universe in turn then scorned us." "Holy," Melissa said, looking at me. "That certainly is unsubstantiated." She grabbed my arm. "I think I left some things in the car," she said to me. "Do you mind if we go grab them?" "Do you need any help?" George asked. "Nah, I think we will be fine," I said. As we made our way out of the concrete corridor and back up the stairs, Melissa told me that she wasn't sure about all this, that maybe we should just leave and find somewhere else, just the two of us. "But there are so many supplies here. Do you know how difficult it would be to find some place so well stocked? Plus, I am not opposed to having a few extra able bodies around in case things do hit the fan. I mean, if any of that stuff is true, about the war and all, I mean it would be nice to have some backup." We were making our way to the front door to the porch, where we left the car. I could see through the window that the rain had stopped. "But that's just the thing," Melissa said. "We don't even know if there is a war." "Okay, sure. But at least I know a few of them," I said. "Are you sure?" Melissa asked. "Maybe they're not who they say they are. Maybe they have something to do with all of this. Everything just seems off. Like you all said, this seems like Dean's house in Springdale, but it's not. Well, look at it this way. At least we have each other and love one another, and know that that's real," I said, grabbing her hand. "As long as we have that, we will be okay." We opened the door and walked onto the porch. I cautiously looked under the roof to make sure the rain had stopped. It had. There were just clouds up there. Shimmying into the car, Melissa looked at me intently. "Let's just go," she said. "Let's give it a day or two," I said. "Please. There are just too many supplies here, and the bunker gives me an added sense of security." Melissa grabbed her jacket that was on the back seat and a few other things she had scattered around, mostly leftover snacks and chapstick. She looked perturbed. "Fine, but if you're wrong about this, we're leaving," she said. She spun around, swung open the door, and jumped out of the car. Maybe what they said about the war wasn't true. Maybe what they said about the universe chastising us holds more truth, because the moment she got out of the car, the very moment she stepped foot on the ground, the sky broke and the horrid, abominable rain began to fall. It hit her arms where she was carrying her jacket first, and then her head and her shoulders. I watched from the inside of the car and screamed as she slowly dissolved and liquefied right in front of me. It only took a few seconds before she was gone, reduced to a pile of clothing. And it only took me a few seconds to decide my fate, too. I leaped out of the car and fell to my knees. As I looked up to the sky, the acid rain mixed with tears streaming down my face. For a second, just a moment, I couldn't tell which was the rain and which was the tears. And then I too melted away. It felt like no time had passed. It felt like a wink or a wrinkle in the universe, because before I knew it, I was back in that room. People were already hiding under tables and screaming. But I looked over to my side, and there she was. Without saying a word, we reached out, grabbed each other's hands, and squeezed tight.